Hello, good evening and welcome to this program, another edition of Good Evening Ghana, obviously recorded earlier. But tonight we have a very interesting and forward-looking discussion. In the midst of the political conversations and in the midst of the manifestos that you're hearing, Professor Kwame Addo has put up something significant and phenomenal. He has done a lot of work in Ghana, and he has put up a document that indicates the possibilities that our country holds, and you'll be delighted to see it. You will notice that the future of our country is terribly bright if we are able to harness the resources that people like Professor Kwame Addo have put together. He will walk us through the Ghana map, and he will show us across the country where the opportunities are for investment, across the country where the opportunities are for agro-business, across the country where the opportunities are for the extractive industries. This is a research work that is verifiable from Professor Kwame Addo. That's the discussion for tonight. So take your pens and paper. There will be a PowerPoint presentation. You will see the map firsthand, and you will see that it's an authentic work. What do we do with that after here? That's the big question. Which government will adopt it and go with it? This is a blueprint for the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, for the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Trade, indeed, for any president of Ghana to hold and to understand what the country offers. Because without knowing what the country offers, how do we move forward? All of this work has been done by a Ghanaian. He's done it for other countries, but he's also done it for Ghana. Meet Professor Kwame Addo, who is my guest tonight. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
It's a pleasure.
Very
Cheers.
pleasure.
So tell us, Prof, how did you come by this work?
Yes, thank you very much, especially to the viewers for the opportunity. This work, of course, as you've rightly put it, it has come out of profound research, lots of understanding into how we can start to collate and bring together all the different components of our whole development trajectory. It tries to include and make us have a better understanding of how we are going to harness the infrastructure that we're doing and put it in light with how we can develop as a nation. This project really also tries to make us see things on one page so that can install the issue of hope. And by seeing everything on one page, it can also make us understand and appreciate what we have as a nation.
After the break, Professor Addo will take us to the map and show us a few things of what is achieved. When we finish, we'll come back and talk really about what's the role of government, the NDPC, the political parties, etc., what are they doing? When he's finished with that, we will look at the various sectors. We'll narrow it down sector by sector and see what opportunities that each sector presents for our country. This is, by the way, copyrighted to him in very great legal detail. So after the break, we'll be up on the map, and then you can see it close up on your screen. So tell a friend to tell his friend that you should quickly tune into Metro TV. We are talking about the future of Ghana. It is a bright future. Welcome back to the program. I hope that you are all keyed up to understand the future of Ghana. All what I've been talking about is in this book. It's entitled The Visions of the Development, the Visions of Ghana, Decoding Development by Professor Kwame Addo. You get a close-up of this later on, but this is the book, Visions of Ghana, Decoding Development by Professor Kwame Addo. Now, this book contains everything I'll be looking at in the map up there, and it contains everything about what Ghana's development could achieve. A bit of bio about my guest tonight, since some of you may not know about him. Professor Addo is a development architect. He's a product of the Rhode Island School of Design, Providence in the United States, specializing in strategy, implementation, and visual communication. A Ghanaian by birth, he has been a professor of architecture, environmental design, graphic design, and industrial design in South America, offering undergraduate and continuing education courses at the Javeriana University in Colombia. As a consultant and advisor to the governments of Ghana, Venezuela, Colombia, and the World Bank Group, Professor Addo works on programs and projects in the built environment, infrastructure, transport, petroleum, tourism, and marketing sectors, with a variety of creative activities ranging from music productions to art exhibitions. He brings together integrated solutions in all his endeavors. Prof is our guest tonight, and so we're going up to look at the map, and then we'll continue the discussion. I bet you will enjoy it. Let's have a look at what Ghana offers from the spectacles of well thought out research by Professor Kwame Addo. Here it is, Prof. Let's go through it based on the commodities, that's extractive commodities, agricultural commodities. We'll do the transport and communication infrastructure, including harbors, and then we'll do the energy support that is required to make all of these things happen, which will make Ghana a multi-billion dollar country very soon if we can explore all of these things. Mind you, some of this information is already known to the states in terms of government agencies, but what Prof is adding is to actually demonstrate how it can be harnessed, which is really the story, how it can be harnessed to bring money to our people. And so that's where we are, Prof. So walk us through it. Let's look at gold, diamond, iron ore, and manganese, for instance. Where are they?
Yes, we can see clearly that in the case of gold, it's important to note that the northern part of Ghana has also got its fair share of gold up in the upper east, upper west, and the northern parts of Ghana. And we'll also notice that at the same time, close to Kambaga, we have an important deposit of diamond, which has also begun commercial extraction. There are also manganese deposits in the upper east end and as far down as the northern sector of Ghana. It is important for us to understand that while these things are there are also issues of how the industries will develop among them. So we would see that at certain places, industries would also be coming up through the initiative.
Industries that are relevant to those,
areas.
Minerals.
Yes, it shows that then all the spillover projects and issues that can come out of them. So we realize that each mineral that comes, you would see a possible industry being grown upon them. But the map, apart from the fact that we have these natural resources such as iron ore, which is also very key in the Sheni district in the northern part.
So you are saying that in Sheni we have 750 million tons of iron ore?
Yes, which has been...
that will translate to about $42 billion if all of it is mined.
And it's true, and we need to have the appropriate robust legislation, and we have to sensitize and we have to interface all the communities and the mining agencies, of course, agricultural activities, everybody has to be. So you're saying
that there's gold and diamond, iron ore, and manganese spread all over the country from north to south?
To south, right down. And you also find that while this is also happening, there are key infrastructure angles that also join them up, that have to link them. So that is why we can...
Let's first talk about the agro-industries as well. What does it offer, the agro-industry?
Yes, agro-industry is going to be one of the key factors for us to develop in the future, now and in the future. And as you can see, the upper part of Ghana, the northern sector of Ghana, has got lots of viability for soya bean production, lots of cashew, lots of shea nut, groundnut, vegetables.
Which parts of the north? Which areas?
Now we'll find out that, upper west, upper east, they have all these things, similar things. They have lots of opportunity for also livestock development. But the agro businesses obviously are going to come out of the commodities. So groundnuts, which is going to be very frequent in both upper west and upper east. The same with soya bean, which is already there, but now we're looking at it in terms of a business. And it becomes a business, that's why we're connecting it now to the infrastructure. That's why we have the issue of the technology being involved. Now, apart from all that, you realize that all these commodities are going to be harnessed through the different valleys. And that is where the fields are. So up in the upper west, we have the Sisila Valley and the Fumbusi Valley in the northern part. So all the activities of all the different commodities, which also include sugarcane and cotton, are very viable areas and products.
What about the middle belt?
Now, the middle belt, which has got the least amount of development in terms of population, because it harnesses only just around 10% of our total population, you'll find out that it is mostly land which has been laid barren because of its earlier occupancy with cheche fly. But now that that has been eradicated, you find out that the land is one of the most fertile of the lot. So it now serves as a very key area for serious rice, wheat, and all the grain productions.
In the middle belt? Which area? Which particular area?
We are talking about just the lower section of the northern region and marrying with the upper ends of Brongahafo region.
So are you talking Kintampo?
Yes, you are also coming from. You can be leveling it off from Kintampo, and you can be given a cutoff point from Buipe downwards.
Okay.
So while we're doing that, you realize that there's more than enough there. There's another key element, which I'll have to mention because although it's not necessary in agro, is the issue of limestone.
Limestone?
Yes, limestone is a very important product, and the north, right from upper east to upper west into the northern region, have got a very key, and that is going to be a very key factor in our construction and building industry. Now, it's not something that we don't know already, it's there, but the idea in this map that we're trying to do is we're trying to show the investor or the possible interested party that they are in these particular locations And there are so many other opportunities that will spring out of them. You'd also notice that while we have these types of commodities, we also have to show how they are going to be supported.
We haven't talked about Ashanti and Eastern.
Yes. Now, when we go further down, we get down to the Ashanti, Eastern, and which is going to dovetail into the upper end of the Western. We realize that because of the typical type of geography, which is now becoming forested hills, and that is where, which has been crisscrossed by several rivers and streams, it's clearly showing us that we are getting into a very agricultural land, a very rich agricultural land, but at the same time, because of its geological formation, it's also harnessing some of the highest levels of exotic materials, or
exotic materials like what?
Such as silver. We have silver which will spring off from there, and we also...
Which area in particular?
So, the silver and those other exotic normally come also from around the areas where they are already mining the gold.
Okay.
Because it's to do with the rock formations. Okay. So it's not only gold that comes out of there. There are quite a number of other which are also shown, which we can expand upon. So now you'll find out that that area is the area where we have a lot of density. But we should also remember that this map is also showing the relationship between the urban and the rural distribution, because that is also synonymous to how we are developing. So you clearly see that it's down south that we have a strong concentration of our population. So we should also understand that there's quite a lot. There's been more than enough emphasis down in the southern part. Now we will also look up and see that while we have all kinds of materials, I would like to comment that our environment, in terms of how we intend to make sure they are also synchronized with the use of all these things, are going to play a very, very, very vital role. That is why the protected forests and the protected ecosystems are also noted in this map. So we're just not going to be extracting, but there's a caution and there's a greater understanding. We should also know that while we have all these things, it shows us where we can have afforestation to be also replenishing what we have.
You have put airports across. What does it mean?
Yes, the airports, there's a basic
The
policy.
sign of the plane in the map is the airport.
Yes, the basic policy in general is to have an airport in every region, every regional capital. That's the basic understanding. So now, so far we have, of course, international airports, which are in Accra and in Tamale. Those are the red flags. Then we have the existing airports, which are blue, which are in Sunyani, of course, Takrady. And then you find out that we have the proposed projects, which are coming up in their way, both in Ho. There's also the plans, serious plans are afoot for Cape Coast, and of course, for Wa and in Bolgatanga. Don't forget, this map is also trying to show everybody that everybody has got a role to play, and there are resources in everybody's area. But also, we are also telling everybody that there shouldn't be necessarily a mad rush to just start going because there's gold everywhere. And it starts to try to make us understand that each region can have particular drivers which should be able to be shaping where they're going. So, for example, if I may come further down, the eastern region, there are still deposits of cocoa. Obviously, we know there's lots of quarry activities, foodstuffs, irrigation, industries. There's fish farming, which is going to play a very vital role. Now, we should also understand that the Volta Lake is really our major seed capital. It is almost our lifeline. And through that is where the key to our connection between the south and north ends, how we develop it. And that is where our greatest opportunity is. That is why there's a key emphasis on how to enable lakeside development. And that is where we have to look at carefully. Otherwise, we're just going to, again, attack it, and in the end, we won't have anything. So this tries to lay down the different things that are occurring there. We can see in the Ketekrachi area here, which is a key midpoint, almost a midpoint between Buipe and Ketekrachi. We will notice that it's a key connecting point. That is why there's a possibility to have a container port. There is an existing airstrip, which will have to now be made more viable. So the map starts to make you see what we have to set back, apart from the fact that we have different material resources. Now, when we come down further down in the south, one key resource is the palm oil palm. And oil palm, as we all know too, is another key element, because we have major competitors as far as Malaysia, but we should also know that neighboring countries have also taken up the might. We should know that in the Volta region, especially close to Tijo, there's quite a lot of oil palm, and not to mention the lower parts of the western region. But this is spread all across central region and eastern region, oil palm. So there's a massive, interesting...
What is the potential value of this oil palm you're talking about?
Yes, well, that we will have to
Work
get the specifics on that. You see, the interesting thing about this map is that it takes you specifically to that, and it also leads you to the appropriate agency for you to get further information when it's needed. So now, you will notice that there's a block that says specific areas for investment. And maybe that is an interesting thing that we can talk about to be able to get us a quick understanding. We have the issue of food processing. So it shows us that although we have all these different commodities all around, the issue of adding value to what we have is going to be our next key thing. So there it will tell you exactly which regions and which commodities in that box are available for food processing. So it does the same for manufacturing, for the cotton industry, for the marble and granite facilities, and much more.
Let's talk about the aircraft. So transport and communications infrastructure. You talked about planes and airports around the place, and then the inland ports. How many inland ports do you think we can develop on this map?
Well, the inland ports, there are landing sites and there are inland
or
ports.
even coastal ports that we can add.
You see, the good thing about what we've done here is, as people used to say, this map you can only add to it. Mm-hmm. But the fact is that also when we look, every place has been carefully put through so that even additions become seriously to be thought over. But what I would just like to simply say is that on the Volta Lake, we have some major inland ports such as Yeji. Ketekrachi too is another key one, Makongo. But at the end of the day, we are talking about the end point, which is going to be Buipe, which ends the upper end. And the furthest end is the Yape port, which is also called the Tamale port. Now, with these ports, they are going to be performing platform ports, because that is where we are going to end up with all our petroleum products to now bridge the gap between the north and the south. So there has to be special attention around those areas. It's also important to note that even at Buipe, which we are talking about an inland port, it's also curious to note that there's also deposits of salt. So salt is not only necessary on the coastline, but there's also rock salt, which Ghana also has quite a lot. So these are all the opportunities. And for further information, we just go further and we realize the real potential. Now,
your map seems crowded around the Kumasi Ashanti region area. What does it offer?
Yes, it just shows you that Kumasi is a major commerce and activity zone, and it's the main distribution point where lots of convergence comes, because that's where the eastern and western corridors depart from. So obviously it is a hub which we should look at. You would understand, you would see clearly that we're just trying to say it has the airport, it has a major university, a major public university, but there are issues such as recycling, and there are all the opportunities for solar and other things as close as wind, which we now will get into when we start to talk more in depth about the energy sector.
Solar?
Yes, solar and energy.
Opportunities are available in Ashanti for solar?
Yes. Now, the solar...
Why? But sunshine there is particularly high? Or?
Yes, you see, now here you have, the points here are the solar radial points. So these are the points where they best come out of. But secondly, there are areas where we also see how it's directly connected to how we can harness our energies at times at different levels. We can harness them at broader levels, such as how we have now both up in the Navrongo, and we also have now in the central region. Those are major catchment points. But also we have the ones that interact with the local people, and they are also harnessing a lot. And so it gives us an opportunity to understand we can also dampen urban energy supply through those alternative energy sources. Now, you notice that there are some buildings, and those are showing you the housing deficits, because housing and getting the people in place is going to be another key factor for us to even decide that we want to go into farming. So as you notice, those are always concentrated in the urban areas. So the size of the thing will tell you really what the deficit is. And again, the appropriate website will now lead you and will give you really up-to-date information.
Let's talk about the energy, because all of these investments cannot be supported on a shaky energy regime. We must have a very profound energy regime that is reliable in all its essences. So tell us about the energy map.
Yes. Well, let me just explain that the red lines really are the national roads, the national road network. Actually, the wire framework for us to even begin this whole plan is based upon the road network, because that's what is going to take us everywhere. So it has the road network nationally, it has the interregional road network, which is a lighter orange, and it has the lightest orange, which are the regional road networks. Now, from that, now you start to stem off all the other issues. You will realize that the energy delivery or the power delivery supply, the key of our situation is for us to have a better understanding. Don't forget, this thing we're doing is just bringing awareness, trying to bring a better understanding of how we are going to deliver the power to you. So here is just telling you that Akosombo, this is the capacity that it has, what is happening in Buipe, and it also gives us the opportunity to show ongoing energy projects which are also coming up, such as the one in Juale, and there are other ones which are progressing earnestly. It gives us also the opportunity to show all potential dam sites which are harnessed off major rivers, and those are always indicated by this symbol all over. And so we realize that across the Black Volta there are quite a number of opportunities, and down here over the Pra and of Insu, they also have a whole line of mini dams, if you can say, which are up for grabs, which also relate to the different resources available. So the investor who is also looking to come and do something would also realize that he has that opportunity to also see how he can also partake in those type of issues, which can also help. So now you realize that we've also spoken a lot about the gas, because gas, again, we've seen it when we try to understand that it's supposed to be the future. And as you can see here, we have the West African gas pipeline, which is going to enter into Ghana. But at the same time, it's showing us how the gas is going to be taken. The white line is showing the trajectory of the master plan of the gas infrastructure. So it shows you how we're going to go from Prestia and get up to Kumasi, and how it's going to connect to Sunyani, and straight up through Buipe to Tamale, and jot off to Wa, and of course further up to go and fill and help with the landlocked countries, right? But we should also note that it's also running along the coast and crossing through the Volta region and ending up at Hohoi. So there's a plan which is supposed to harness this, and it all has to be phased out. The map is also showing you that apart from the fact that you have these things, there's the issue of wind. You see, we've spoken about these alternative energy sources for quite a while. But now this map is already now indicating to you specifically where particular studies have been made for potential wind installations to be set. And they are normally across the areas which have got appropriate height, and at times areas in the coastal areas, such close to Pram Pram. Now, all those things have been indicated. And in the Energy Commission or the Industry Ministry or Power Ministry, you can get far more information on really how they're going. But this now informs the investor where they are and the real potential. Now, so wind, we have seen wind, we have seen all the potential for solar energy. But at the same time, you notice that there's a symbol for recycling. And in all the regional capitals, there's the recycling symbol, just to make us understand that biofuel and all other alternatives can also be used.
Mm. That's interesting. When I come from the break, we'll be asking you what do you think accounts for government not being able to harness all of these potentials, even though they know some of them, and we're asking you whether, therefore, the now controversial one district, one factory that is being articulated by one of the political parties, whether that's actually possible. After the break, forgive my voice, I'm just recovering from a bout of cold, and so forgive my voice, viewers. I'll be back after the break, and Prof will give us some more analysis. Welcome back, and thank you very much for your time. Professor Kwame Addo is still with us. Prof, so you wanted to give us a sort of analysis on the railway as part of the transport and communication infrastructure. What do you want to say about railway?
Yes, the railway is going to be one of the key factors that's going to unite the nation, because it's going to be the thing that's going to be bridging the gap between the north and the south, but at the same time it's going to be bridging urban areas to the rural areas. We should understand that we have a fantastic opportunity in a broader sense, because it's also offering opportunities for the landlocked countries to bring down their commodities and for us to have more robust entries at our ports of entry, because in the end they are bringing it to their markets. Now, the essence of the railway clearly is to help us also know that apart from the fact that we will be carrying viable resources, the issue of movement of people is also going to be key. Now, that is related to our tourism sites, but at the same time, we should know that railway, for it to happen too, is going to need a lot of political will. But at the same time, it's going to have to be viable. But we should also understand that the railway is not really something that is viable on its own. It's a long-term thing. Some takes 40 to 30 years for it to see real dividends coming through. But then it is clear that that is the key to really bring the country alive. There's a master plan that has already been mapped out, which would show you clearly how Accra is going to connect to Kumasi, how the central line, which existed before and goes through Oda and gets to Uni Valley and connects up with the western line, which takes you from the port of Takoradi right up to Kumasi, branching off at Awaso and also at Prestia. It's important to know that there are maybe about 4 key major arteries. We'll talk about the western line, which we already know, which is Takoradi up to Kumasi. The eastern line, the eastern corridor, or eastern line, how we put it, is from, of course, Tema, Accra, and jotting us up to Kumasi. There's also the ECOWAS line, which is supposed to be linking our sister countries, which is connecting from Aflao through Accra, literally trailing the N1, branching off into Prestia, and ending up at Omampe to connect to Ivory Coast. And these are lines which obviously had interactions with the sister countries. Now, we also have the interconnecting railway lines to make sure that each capital it passes through. So it passes through Koforidua, it passes through Ho, it also connects through to Sunyani and Tamale. There's a line which is also taking you through Techiman, which is a key distribution point. Let's remember that Techiman is also a very key agricultural distribution point, and it's there that we have the green. So it's important that there's one that is going to take us all the way up to Hamley. And so that is a major issue. But the main thing about what I'm showing here is that we're showing the potential. Don't forget, we're trying to bring about a better understanding. Because at the end of the day, we can have all the materials. We can tell us how much we have here. But if you and I are not really understanding that we have it, I think that's the point. So this is just better understanding for us to be aware. Then we can take it from there.
Now, the NDPC has put up a 40-year development plan for Ghana. I don't know whether you've seen it. Dr. Nimoy Thompson is leading the NDPC at this stage. Are you confident about that?
Yes, well, the chairman of the National Development Planning Commission, Professor Kwesi Botchwi, who is the chairman, we've always had a very close relationship. In fact, he's the one who wrote the foreword for the book. But you see, to do development plans, this is, as I want to reiterate again clearly, this is not a plan. This is just a guide, and it's showing us a general vision, and it's general information which has been put together. In fact, it's critical social information towards national physical development. It is what can possibly advise on a plan to become, because for a plan to come about, you have to have a vision, because you can't do a plan out of the air. Now, things come together as they unfold, but the first important thing is for us to reveal in terms of this textbook approach, which is in the book, and also to show it in terms of a blueprint. Now, while that is developing, I'm very sure that their analysis, they've gone all around the country, and I'm sure now they have collated all the information. And now the next step with all that information is to see what they're going to make out of it, so that you and I can understand it. And not only understand it, we have to all decode it and see that it's going to make appropriate sense. Now, what we are seeing here is what the investor and you and I would know, so that by the time any plan is going to come about, we know exactly what we're talking about. The idea of the concept of NDPC is actually to show the long-term projections. That is where we consult directly with NDPC, because they are the ones who would be clearly drawing that outline. And we should also remember that they input directly into the investment vein. Plans, as you know, are done by visionaries. You have to have a visionary approach, and a visionary is somebody who is an architect of plans and of economies and of many other things. So by doing that, you have to have an understanding, a multifaceted approach. You have to be handling different things at different levels. But at the end of the day, we all want to see one picture, so that you and I, tomorrow, when we are not here, we can have something to point to. And we hope that as things are developing, we will always have something that we can always look to. That is why I felt my contribution as my civil, right, is to also help and also come up with this humble map, which literally turns out to be almost like a portrait of who we are, because it's literally telling us what we have.
So, with all this you've said, the controversial issue, do you think that one factory, one district is a laudable, one district should have one factory is a laudable idea?
I would say that with this approach that I've come up with, it now makes us understand how that is. And that is exactly what somebody of a researcher would be doing. So before we even say it or we know about it, this map, which has actually got detailed maps. There are maps based upon only the regions, and it goes right down to each district, and it will show you all the rivers and everything that is available. So it's through that now you can make your pronouncements. But the fact is that we all have to be informed, you see. And before the program, I was also joking to myself, because at the end of the day, I'm not talking in terms of any political vein, but we should understand that there are things that are ongoing already. This is just an ongoing process. Ghana, we are going somewhere. Somebody has to be showing the trajectory. And if you ask me, Professor Addo, what I want to do as in terms of a politician, well, there's only one promise I can give.
Which
and
is?
That only promise is I can give one district, one map.
One district, one map. You can give that, okay. And they can use that to do one district, one factory. Where do you want to go from here? Are you going to share this with government? Are you going to give this to...
Yes, this has been already shared with many people. You see, one thing is sharing. One thing is getting to the next step of seeing how that sharing is going to come up with something that's going to take us to the next level. So I would positively say that there's been enough showing and making people understand that something like this exists. But everything is a process. And so while we are also moving, we should also be complementing. And maybe that is the reason why I decided that we do a map where we can all see ourselves and not necessarily feeling that it's with a dispensation or not a dispensation. But at the same time, we are saying that everybody is going to come to bear, finally. And as we spoke about earlier on too, in the end, somebody will have to implement whatever is here. And that is where maybe at times we falter, because implementation can only be done through the eyes of the originator, where the ideas come from. And when that is not part of the process, you find out that things begin on a shaky ground. So I think that's one of the things that we should start to look at as a country, because many people, there are many people with great ideas out there who would also like to be synchronized in. So I hope that this is supposed to be bringing us together. But that's one of the fundamental reasons of this. Apart from all the analysis, which everybody will be free to get as time goes on, we'll realize that, yes, we have something to look forward to. And that's the main idea.
All of this potential that's show Ghana as a great country, is there a tourism aspect of it? If people are talking about tourism in a big way these days, if people want to invest in, say, tourism, which areas can we show off to non-Ghanaians that will fascinate them?
Yes, that's right. In fact, we should also understand that an investor comes to Ghana first as a tourist. So tourism clearly is our first point of call. Now, clearly Ghana offers those incentives very obviously on the map. You would realize that first and foremost, apart from the fact that there are specific sites, you will notice certain green areas. Those bold green areas are protected areas which harness major national parks, such as Kakum, Mole. And you realize that while all of these are there, we are trying to integrate them into economic viability. So you realize that, for example, in the in Volta region, there's a key protected national park, but it's also close to important water bodies. And so that is giving us a massive infrastructure for the issue of culture, for tourism. And for that matter, ecotourism, because we are trying to synchronize the environment with that. So you see that now in the world, because the foreigner is also looking for things that the example is there ready. So ecotourism will be playing a very vital role in the three things, because we are also strong in agriculture, but when we can connect it to that, we can go. We know that we have castles. This map has actually also outlined where all the fossil castles are. We've been doing that for centuries, and we know where it has gone. We have to look at it in a more holistic way and know how these places are really going to be conformed in modern times to make proper sense. You realize that we have them already located, and theme parks can easily be created around them. But these are all ideas which have to be seen in a more holistic way. And again, up in the map there, you would see in the specific areas for investment, that area has been also shown boldly. So tourism is going to play a very vital role. Remember that for quite a while, it has been the third earner, foreign exchange earner, and at times it rises. But now it's time for us to look at it in connection with all the developments that are going on. And there's a symbol, which is this gentleman with his arm up, and we realize that there are tourism spots dotted all over the country, and you find out that from Kintampo.
And these are sites we can develop.
These are sites that are already there and just need the appropriate infrastructure. So you see that the investor will come, he will see Willie Falls, he will see that, okay.
And this must connect to the railway, the airports and all of that.
And then he will realize that there's an airport.
And the road construction and all of that.
Everything's all
to make it all work.
Then it all works. So it's all over. And so that way, Mole Game Reserve, which is actually our ultimate area to really develop as a national park, is there and has been there for years. Now you will see that finally there's an indication of conservation and preservation, but at the same time it gives us the opportunity to see the infrastructure that is built around it. So now that maybe there's a road from Fufuso to Shola, we'll see that now there's a viability for that area to be also harnessed. That is the idea of this map. So when we do something, we can also integrate it into something viable.
If someone came to you with a bit of money and says, help me to invest in any part of the country, advise me, do you render that kind of service?
No, of course. I have literally all the districts in detail, and showing all their efforts and all the things that they can come together. But at the end of the day, I'm always available, and the website will be shown on the screen, or the contact will be made available.
Thank you very much, Prof. It's a pleasure. And that's Professor Kwame Addo.
Can you hear the child crying in the night? Do we understand how we treat our land?
Take a look around. Are we on the ground? But I see the light shining through the dark.
Raise my hand and touch the hammer time. I'll become alive, fighting to survive.
Listen to your heart. Make a better start.
Then you must see the sign of what's going on.
Visions of Ghana, she's like no other. Speak out for Ghana, for good words renew her.
I see a land where all people stand firm on common ground.
Take a look around.
From the east to west,
Bringing out the best.
From the north
to south, we are all in the house. Now the time has come, ready, set, and done. Nothing holds you back, 'cause you are number one. Visions of Ghana, she's like no other.
She's like no
Reach
other.
out for Ghana,
Reach out.
let's get together. Visions of Ghana, she's like no other. Speak out for